Beep, beep. My hat!
Alright, so here we have the Proline Pro-Series 32P transmission, and it's 32P because of the spur that it has. Now, at the time of this video, this cost $116, and it comes with so item number is 6, let's see, should be able to see it there, 635000. So this is for your two-wheel drive Traxxas vehicles such as Slash, Stampede. You can also use it in other vehicles like the Bandit or Rustler. It comes with this mounting hardware in here. So it looks like two little spacers and two screws. And transmission actually looks very good. So if we compare it with a stock transmission, this is stock transmission. This one is off of a brushed Traxxas Slash. Let's see, the material there on the hinges looks to be about the same. Let's see, side. Let's see. Yeah, that looks about the same. Alright. I don't really see much gain in material, to be honest. The main thing is this aluminum plate here. This is actually going to be a very good option, especially if you're running the brushed version. And the reason why is the brushed motors have a bushing, not a bearing. So if you look inside, that is a brass bushing. So they do heat up, and you can get 20 to 40 degree higher temperature here than toward the rear of the bell. Then again, the rear of the bell has a little fan built in. So this actually works very, very well. Another difference is that 32P, as I mentioned. But let's see if there's some other differences. So this case here, it's clear as you can see, and this actually holds, so you can adjust the slipper clutch. This is really nice. This is a large rubber piece versus the smaller rubber ones on the stock Traxxas, these little guys. So that's one of the differences too on the cover. This one has more space. It's thicker rubber. It's actually very good quality. And when you remove it, it stays on versus the other one does not. So that's a plus. The other thing too is the screws on the stock one, the heads are 2 millimeters. This one has 2.5 millimeter screws for the cover. And it is a clear cover, so if you get something stuck in here, you will be able to see. Now, one of the biggest differences too is the slipper clutch. The factory Traxxas slipper clutch looks like this. So you have these three little pads. They're pretty weak. If you over tighten the clutch, you will break them, or if you run high power, sometimes 3S will break. They'll break in 2S. I've seen it happen. Then you get this friction disc, and that would go there. Well, and then it goes like this. This goes to a transmission. There's a pin. So this would actually sit in here. There's a pin that goes through there, and then this sits on top like that. And then this assembly would sit on top. This one over here has a friction pad. So this friction pad, this is very similar to a TRX4. That's the crawler, Traxxas crawler. And also, if you've looked at team-associated vehicles, for example, their short course SC5, it's the same style. So you have this metal disc, and then there's a friction pad that's stuck, that's adhered to the spur gear. Now, before I take this off, I'm going to see, let's see, that's half, 1.5, 2.5, 3.5. So 3.5 turns, that's how this was set. So I'm going to rebuild it shortly. Let's go ahead and remove this so I can show you. Now, really quick, when you're removing these nuts, one of the things to keep in mind is the following. These will spin, which is why I just use the body clips to keep these from spinning. I can remove them now. All right, something here is there's this little bushing here that goes on top, and then the spring, it looks the same on both sides, so it's not going to matter. But this is going to sit on top, so keep that in mind for rebuilding. We will keep this here. So you have this metal disc. That metal disc contacts this friction surface, and that's huge. And there's another one over here. So you have these massive pads, friction pads on both sides. This is actually going to last a lot better than the stock Traxxas. Now, if you watch some of my other videos, for example, with the drag car, I actually went with hot racing, hard aluminum anodized pads, which are larger and stronger. But this is another solution. Back in the day, you either got the hot racing pads, which you can still get, or you actually got the spur and the pads for an SE5, and then ST made a shaft that replaced your lace shaft that used the system off of the Team Associated for your slash. But now, Proline, out of the box. So this is a far better clutch setup. I do prefer these over the stock setup. And here, let's see, if we remove this. All right, so these are the same. These appear to be interchangeable. Yes, so the outer and the inner are the same. They are interchangeable. I mean, just look at the difference in the surface area. Well, I guess I can use the clutch pad. There's a massive difference between the Proline and the stock Traxxas. So this, as of now, I think this would be a great upgrade to any two-wheel drive Traxxas vehicle that uses this setup. Now, I'm going to go ahead and take this aluminum piece out, and they look like 2mm. So I'll take the motor mount off, which works as a heatsink because it's aluminum. And again, versus this plastic surface that is going to work as an insulator. That's one of the differences too. So this Proline is going to be able to keep, or just dissipate heat and keep your motor running a little cooler. All right, so let's go ahead and remove this. Okay, so now I'm going to back the screws out all the way. And let's go to this one. There we go. We'll keep this together. All right, so this is what the transmission looks like. So there is quite a difference in the appearance. And if you were to break anything, Proline does make all the parts for it, so do not worry about that. Before I continue, I'm curious if the stock bumper would fit. Nope. So you do have to, well, actually, it will. Just replace that. Well, I'll go ahead and remove this. So if you remove the centerpiece, you'd be able to use the stock bumper off of your slash. Now I am going to break apart all of these transmissions and show you what the internal difference is between all three of them. Top screw, and this is the bottom. This should be long. So on Traxxas vehicles, long ones are generally at the bottom. something that I find interesting is that, so long one at the bottom, uh, Proline decided to go with different size screws. So they have the 2 millimeters here for the rear. So you can see how I'm removing this short little bumper piece. Oh, that one's coming out. All right, that's the piece. But they went with 2.5 on these over here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And yeah, this. Okay, that hole matches. So that one would. And those would as well. So you can mount the stock / bumper right up to the Proline bumper. No problem. It fits right on. So here, once you remove the rear bumper, one of the things too is they use different heads, but they also use less screws. They use one less screw. They don't have a screw going in here through the center like the Slash does right there. That screw would be right in there. So now, let me get my 2.5 millimeter driver, and we're going to remove these screws. I guess I needed 2 for that one. And let's see, we'll do that. Let's tear this down. So that's the top. Or is it this way? And then we have the other top. And we have this one. Screw. All right. These all appear to be the same size. Oh, nope, not this one. This one's longer. This one's probably going to be the same size as that one, I'm not sure. And there we go. Now, another difference too is there is no hole here. The Traxxas ones have a hole. See this tape here? That's because the case actually has a gap right in there where you can grease the differential. This one does not. So if you had to go in there, you would have to take the differential out. Now, to be honest, you don't have to grease the gears inside of the transmission. Really, you just grease them one and done. That's it. Do it right the first time. You know, last a really long time. If you have to do any hard maintenance, then you could do it then. But that is it. So let's go ahead and break these apart now because I can. This here is a VXL. So the VXL, one of the things you're going to notice is you have metal gears here on the differential, metal gear idler, metal gear there. So all of these gears are 48 pitch and they're all metal. So if I were to remove this, see the gear, that ring is metal. The other thing is plastic. Now the differential, you cannot tune the differential. I mean, maybe you can put some black grease in there. I mean, you can, I've done it, but excess is just gonna come out, to be honest. It's not gonna help. I mean, you won't even be able to finish a lap before it no longer makes a difference. So here, let's see, they're both full ball bearing. And wow, these are all metal now. They used to be plastic. So you used to have a plastic gear, but now the VXL and the brushed have the same thing. So what is the difference there? I see no difference. I mean, that looks black because of the grease. Let's take these out. Yeah, this is metal. And that is metal. So they are now all metal. So you can easily swap VXL. All right. So brushed VXL. It's the same exact thing now. That is pretty good. So let's look at the Proline transmission. Wow, that looks cool. So if you look at the Proline transmission, it's all metal gears, idler, this here. Now this ring actually looks beefier, and that one as well. But the differential is a buildable differential. So if you look at it here, you can actually go inside, replace the oil. So this is an oil. Wow, that's pretty good. This is an oil. Yeah, this is a tunable differential. Like this. So Proline has a tunable differential. Stock Slash does not. And the bearings, I mean, those things are huge compared to the stock bearings. I mean, these are just small bearings. These are massive bearings. So that is one big difference between the two. Actually, it looks like it has two bearings, one inside of the other. So that's one of the differences here. Now, is there a difference in the tooth count? No, they look the same. I'm just going to see if these parts are interchangeable, just for kicks. Oh, this fits. This actually fits. Okay, so it's going to be the same tooth count. Now, curious if this will close. Oh, neat. Huh. I guess you could just get the internals and just get the clutch system if you replace that layshaft. That's what I would do. So just replace the... Actually, just get the whole transmission. Then you can get the differential. But those are the differences there between the Proline and the Stock Slash. One of the nice things about this here too, this layshaft, is the gear and the layshaft appear to be one piece on the Proline. And the reason why that is good is on the Slash, you have a roll pin, and if you watch some of my other videos, you've heard me talk about that little roll pin there. So this actually just slides back and then exposes the roll pin. That breaks. So if you're doing, if you over tighten your clutch, for example, because it's slipping too much or whatever, you're running high power, or it's high grip, especially high grip on drag cars, you will break that, and then you will just hear a winding sound, like a and then your car will barely move forward, if anything. The way you can tell if you hear that sound, so it's the layshaft versus the clutch, is the clutch will generally smell like burnt clutch or burnt brake pads. That will not smell. So that's the difference. The bearings, I mean, look at the size of that, and there's actually these things are pretty well sealed. So there's a little bushing there for the correct spacing, but this is the Proline transmission. So I'm going to go ahead and reassemble this. And my thoughts before I install this, I've not run a Proline transmission yet, but having a tunable differential makes a huge difference in a vehicle. That's the advantage that other brands have over Traxxas vehicle when it comes to racing, and it's the tunability. And part of it has to do with that differential, something that is very common with Slash, Bandit, etc., is that you take a turn and then the inner tire just unloads and you go nowhere. So with this transmission, you're not going to have that problem. You can go in there and tune it. Now, I'm going to leave it as is, and later on, if I think I need thinner oil or thicker oil for the differential, I'm going to go ahead and do that. But for now, to be honest, the differential feels very, very solid. So I think this is good for, probably good for running carpet. This is going to go on a Slash that we're going to be building. It's going to be run on carpet. So other than that, just to recap, the difference between a modern, so this is as of this video, this is a brushed Traxxas Slash two-wheel drive. This is the VXL model. Transmissions are identical on the inside. I do not see a difference between one or the other. They all have metal gears. They no longer use plastic, which is very good. Proline transmission, also all metal gears. The the biggest advantage you're going to have with the Proline transmission is, by far, this layshaft, which is one piece with the gear instead of the roll pin that breaks, and the clutch system. So the slipper clutch, this is a fabulous, fabulous style system that I've run on other vehicles. Like I mentioned, TRX4, that's the Traxxas crawler, uses this system, and I love it. The other vehicles, for example, Associated, I've had Associated vehicles as well, buggies, and their short course trucks. They run this style clutch, and I also, again, really love it. Why? Because those teeny little pads, these will break under stress, and they will end up looking something like this. And then they smell really bad too. Yeah, they kind of crystallize. So that's it. So these are the differences between Proline transmission, VXL, and brushed.